1. Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, given the rich plurality and diversity of culture and ethnicity in India, there is no singular definition of what a good, a true, or what a proper education is, given a lot of these specific nuances that permeate and affect your ability to be able to learn, that affect your ability to be able to comprehend, and affect your ability to be able to understand. This is true in terms of rich religious and socio-cultural narratives that shape linguistic diversity, which ultimately affect the ability of a student from a certain far area who might not speak the more popular dialect, and ultimately puts these particular people at a particular disadvantage. The challenge we have right now in status quo is that the educational system is stifled and blocked by centralized government bureaucracy and red tape, and that is what we have in status quo under the concurrent list or the concurrent system. We on Opening Government believe that democratizing and federalizing the educational system under the state list is a better way to go to be able to help the state make decisions, allow the educational system to do its thing, and most importantly, the students and people who are being molded by the educational system the chance to be able to get a quiet and good kind of educational system for a better and brighter future. A couple of key points of framing we think are important for this debate. Number one, this is a value judgment debate, but of course, I need a mech or a policy to be able to make it not implode in its own asshole and make sure it's clear what's going on. That is to say, in status quo, under the concurrent list, you have too many decision makers coming from everywhere, and you ultimately have confusion and you have decisions taking so long, and that is an opportunity cost to be able to carry out policy which affects the ability of students to truly be able to get a quality education. That is to say, side opposition will be like, Joseph, more people gotta make decisions, plurality, all that. But more isn't necessarily better, especially when things are time sensitive, like being able to shape curricula, whether you are primary, secondary, or tertiary education. We think farther regions are the ones who have specific socio-cultural nuances rooted in diverse history, religion, and culture, who eventually get drowned out by the state, ladies and gentlemen, especially given that both the state and central authorities have different priorities in terms of what to be able to teach. That is to say, in status quo, there is ultimately the override, as what we see in the info slide, which allows the state to be able to supersede among the individual regions at the point in which we have to listen to the central authority. We think that's too OP. We want to shatter that particular lens. What exactly is going to happen? We want less involvement from the central government and more autonomy to be able to design and implement curricula by those particular regards. How will it not implode and go crazy, what side opposition might accuse us of? A, we think this will primarily affect softer subjects like history, religion, and philosophy, both in primary, secondary, and tertiary education. Because things like science and math, regardless if you're from the north, south, east, or west in India, 1 + 1 is going to equal 2. Fractals and all these things in calculus will be able to remain the same. The delta in this debate is probably going to be in those more intersubjective particular norms. We think, how are we going to do this? Because I know it's value judgment, but how will decisions be made? We can do this through a joint and created coalition of different states to be able to make particular representatives be able to come together per state to be able to form a centralized board that reflect a true democratized Ministry of Education, as opposed to in status quo, where the Ministry of Education is consistently held by those people in power because of their capacity and influence in politics and economy, which is often very concentrated in city centers with large populations, wherein the people who are the most vulnerable from the far parts of the country are ultimately pushed to the wayside and don't receive a quality education. You might ask, how will this work? Status quo, resource allocation coming from the national government will still go down to these particular states, and that in and of itself creates an incentive structure to be able to do this well and do it better. In fact, it makes them more responsible with their curricula, wherein they aren't just dependent on the central authority doing it well. Go for it. I'll take your POI.
Yeah, I really want to be really clear. Corruption, politicization, all sorts are similar with state and center alike. Problem is you want to minimize on decision making and bureaucratic friction, but you are taking away an important veto which ensures swift action.
My friend, the veto and override happens on your side because when you get dissent coming from the states who are more proximate to those particular issues, who is the curricula or the decision that is made? In the info slide, it's the central authority. So, on your side, you actually create this illusion of discourse, but in reality, it's just people circle jerking each other, thinking that they're all being heard, but in reality, the decision is made by the state, and you might ask, why is it harmful? That is harmful because they have every incentive to sort of like gerrymander this particular thing because they want to be able to get reelected, they want to be able to have money. Meaning, these particular things, sure, can happen in any kind of thing because of course education and politics are intertwined, but it's less likely to happen at the point in which these particular people, the most proximate in those city centers, are able to cater to particular individuals. What exactly have we told you so far? We told you that first and foremost, it's the role of the state working with the educational system to be able to make sure that things are effective in order to make faster and more efficient decisions. Contrary to popular belief, you don't need thousands of people coming together to be able to have analysis paralysis and try to figure out what should we do. It's better that they mandate and roll this out on that needs basis. Secondly, the central government just has other things to do. Things like macroeconomics, things like fiscal budget, things like doing international relations. We are able to decongest their priority and allow them to focus on what they need to do while also enabling the autonomy of the states to be able to do this in a particular good regard. Lastly, ladies and gentlemen, we actually allow the very people who are most proximate to the children, to the students, who also speak a different dialect, have a different ethnicity and different religion, to be the most proximate to be able to create, roll out, and edit those curricula as you need to be able to do. If you stick to central authority, it takes too long, and it's not a guarantee that these changes can happen. With that, we are very proud to open this debate and stand on side proposition.